After my sister stole my boyfriend again, I hid a mic, lured her to a rooftop party, and watched us. She kissed the man she'd secretly loved for 5 years, while everyone's phones live-streamed it. My blood ran cold the moment I saw her, casually draped on my boyfriend's couch in my favorite cream sweater, the one I'd been hunting for all week. That's when I knew, with a gut-wrenching certainty, that the game had finally reached a terrifying new level of betrayal. I froze in Callan's doorway, keys still dangling, a silent scream caught in my throat. The scene was utterly wrong, like a familiar room where someone had subtly, maliciously, rearranged everything. Leona, my sister, was there, laughing, head tilted back, throat exposed, as if claiming every bit of air in the room. Callan stood awkwardly by the kitchen counter, his shoulders hunched, weight shifting, a posture that screamed discomfort. Tamsin. Leona's voice was a practiced symphony of surprise. I thought you had lab until 6. Professor Winters canceled, I heard myself say, the words flat, emotionless. Callan's eyes darted between us, a trapped animal. She just stopped by, he explained, hands spreading in a defensive gesture to talk about stuff. That's when I saw it, the coffee mug on the table, a perfect crimson imprint of Leona's lips, the exact shade she was wearing, stark against the white ceramic. My phone buzzed in my pocket then. Again and again, a frantic chorus demanding my attention. We were just discussing Thanksgiving plans, weren't we, Cal? Leona purred, using my nickname for him, her voice dripping with familiarity, with ownership. Callan hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck. Yeah, I guess. His eyes fixed on the floor, the wall, the ceiling, anywhere but my face. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I pulled it out, thumbing the screen to life. Campus tea notifications flooded my lock screen. 5:47 p.m., prime time for campus gossip, when everyone's heading to dinner. I didn't need to open them. The message was already loud and clear. 2 years earlier, it had been my high school graduation. Mom had spent weeks planning my special day. I'd barely opened my gifts when Leona clinked her glass, drawing all eyes to her sparkling new engagement ring. Surprise, she'd announced. Devin proposed last night. Then there was Jake, my first college boyfriend. Leona had coincidentally appeared at our favorite coffee shop, at our regular study spots. She'd text him about family surprise plans for my birthday until Jake started mentioning her name in every conversation. Finally, he admitted, I think we want different things. My mother's voice would always echo in my head, she's just being friendly, Tamsin. You're too sensitive. That's what big sisters do. The morning of freshman orientation, I stood in my dorm room, taping photos to the wall, making a silent, sacred promise. Never again, no more chances. Callan shifted, drawing me back to the present. His phone lay on the counter, unlocked. A text notification banner slid across the top. Leona Carter. Thanks for coffee earlier. Let's do it again. Soon. Something inside me sharpened to a point, a cold, hard resolve. I kept my face neutral, maintaining that pleasant expression I'd perfected over years of family photos. The one that made my mother say, see? Everything's fine. You two seem comfortable. You two seem comfortable, I said, my voice steady, betraying nothing. Don't let me interrupt. Leona's purse gaped open on the coffee table. A corner of what looked like photographs peeked out. More evidence. More ammunition. More of whatever twisted game she was playing. I forgot I have study group, I lied smoothly. Developmental psych project due tomorrow. I checked my watch for effect, though I knew exactly what time it was. You two catch up. But you just got here, Callan protested, finally looking at me directly. There was panic in his eyes. Guilt, maybe. Duty calls, I smiled tightly. See you later. I turned and walked out, closing the door quietly. Behind me, in my car, my hands shook as I finally opened Campus Tea. The first post showed a photo of Callan and Leona at the campus coffee shop, heads bent close together. His basketball jacket was unmistakable. Her hand rested on his forearm. The caption read, Asterisk basketball star getting cozy with his girlfriend's sister, family feud. Asterisk my phone dinged. A text from Leona. Heading home, talk later. About Thanksgiving. I started the car, my fingers no longer trembling. The dashboard clock read 5:53 p.m. 6 minutes. Since I'd walked into Callan's apartment, 6 minutes to confirm what I'd suspected for weeks. Not. This time, I whispered, pulling away from the curb. This time, I have a plan. I'd kept count over the years, 3 boyfriends and 1 almost fiancé. The next day, the notebook in my hands weighed nothing and everything. I flipped through the pages of a purple moleskine journal I'd bought after Jake, my freshman year boyfriend, suddenly needed space, only to appear at a family dinner 2 weeks later, asking Leona about her graduate program. For years of meticulous documentation. Sunday dinner at my parents' colonial-style home always followed the same choreography. Mom in the kitchen, refusing help but complaining. Dad in his study until the last possible moment. Leona arriving fashionably late with some dramatic news. And me, slipping away between salad and main course. Today, I had 20 minutes, maximum, before someone noticed my absence. 20 minutes to search the bedroom Leona still kept at home for convenience, despite her downtown apartment. My fingers worked methodically through her nightstand drawers, nothing unusual. Beneath her bed, I found a shoebox of keepsakes, old concert tickets, birthday cards, a bracelet I thought I'd lost last summer. The closet yielded nothing until I spotted the corner of a leather-bound journal, wedged between winter sweaters on the top shelf. I dragged over the vanity chair and reached for it, my heart hammering against my ribs. What I found turned my blood to ice water. Pages of notes on Callan, his basketball practice schedule, favorite study spots, food preferences, coffee order. A photograph of him mid-jump shot, dated 3 weeks ago. Another of him leaving the science building last month. I flipped further. Screenshots of text messages between Leona and someone listed as FL. FL, is she still dating him? Leona, for now, working the angle we discussed. FL, remember what happened with Dorian, don't rush it. Leona, trust me, her taste in men is predictable, this one's even easier. FL, Operation Payback requires patience. My phone camera clicked softly as I documented each page. My hands, surprisingly steady now, methodically captured evidence of my sister's calculated betrayal. I controlled my breathing 4 counts in, 4 counts out, a technique my therapist taught me last year when I finally sought help for what Mom dismissed as sisterly jealousy. That's just how sisters are, Tamsin, she'd said. After I confronted her about Leona and Jake. You've always been too sensitive, not everyone is out to get you. Dr. Martinez had suggested a strategic distance from my family. Sometimes we need space to recognize unhealthy patterns, she'd explained. I'd nodded, made notes, but never implemented her advice. Family obligation, after all, runs deeper. Carter family value, my father preached during his brief appearances between business trips. The stairs creaked. I froze, journal still open in my lap. Footsteps approached, the distinctive rhythm of Leona's walk in heeled boots. Quickly, I returned the journal to its hiding place and grabbed a perfume bottle from her vanity just as the bedroom door swung open. Tamsin? Leona's surprise looked genuine, but I'd watched her perform confusion many times before. What are you doing in my room? I held up the crystal perfume bottle. Borrowing your Chanel, hope you don't mind. Her eyes narrowed slightly. I forgot my purse upstairs. Mom's about to serve the roast. I spritzed my wrist, casually, heart thundering beneath my calm exterior. I'll be right down. Leona hesitated, glancing around the room as if taking inventory. Don't snoop too long, she said with a half smile. People might talk. After she left, I waited 10 seconds before slipping out, evidence safely captured on my phone. Tomorrow, I would tell Beth everything. I needed my friend's help. She's been to every home game this season, Beth said the next morning over coffee at the campus cafe. My roommate stirred her latte thoughtfully. My cousin who works in the dean's office says. There have been situations before. Situations. I wrapped my hands around my mug, anchoring myself. Beth leaned forward. Complaints from other students. Nothing official, but enough whispers that people notice. She paused, chewing her lip. I didn't want to say anything before because, well, she's your sister. What kind of complaints? The campus buzzed around us, students rushing to morning classes. Boundary issues. Especially with athletes who are already in relationships. Beth tucked her blonde hair behind her ear. Jeremy from the basketball team warned me weeks ago that your sister had been hanging around practices talking to Callan. I thought about Professor Winters, my psychology mentor, who had suggested my research project on familial manipulation patterns with unusual enthusiasm. This could be quite illuminating, Tamsin. She'd said, her eyes holding mine a beat too long. Had she known? That night in my dorm room, I downloaded a recording app on my phone and tested its range. If placed between books on a library table, it captured voices clearly from 6 feet away. I stared at my psychology textbook, a chapter on covert narcissism highlighted in yellow, and picked up my phone. Study session tomorrow? Library? Usual spot. I texted Callan. His response came immediately. Absolutely. 4 p.m. I confirmed and set down my phone, mentally mapping out tomorrow's strategy. I'd need to position my belongings carefully, making it natural to leave everything behind when I excused myself to find a research paper. For a moment, doubt crept in. The voice in my head sounded suspiciously like my mother's. Asterisk, you're overreacting. This is your sister, asterisk. But then I saw the evidence again, the journal, the photographs, the text messages about Operation Payback. My resolve hardened. This wasn't about jealousy or competition. Something deeper, more calculated, was happening, and I needed to understand the full scope before confronting it. Evidence, not emotion, I whispered to myself, the mantra becoming a shield against the hurt threatening to crack my composure. I opened my laptop and began to plan. The next day, I spread my psychology textbooks across our usual table near the tall windows of Hartwell Library. Callan's basketball duffel sat under the chair across from me, his notes already scattered beside his open developmental psychology text. The late afternoon sun slanted through the glass, illuminating dust motes that danced between us. Professor Winters wants 5 peer-reviewed sources, I said, highlighting a passage about familial manipulation patterns. Think we can finish before closing? Callan flipped a page, his forehead creased in concentration. If we split the research. His eyes met mine briefly before returning to his notes. You're better at finding the cognitive stuff. Anyway, I checked my watch for 17. Leona's Tuesday comparative literature seminar ended at 4:30. She'd need at least 10 minutes to cross campus, probably stopping to chat with Professor Holloway about her thesis. That gave me a 20-minute window. I need to find that research paper on siblings and identity formation, I said, gathering my phone. The one by Dr. Harrison? It should be in the psychology journals section. Callan nodded without looking up. I'll start on the methodology section. I wove between the towering shelves, breathing in the comforting smell of paper and binding glue. At the psychology section, I paused, waiting until an undergraduate with headphones shuffled past. Then, I retrieved my phone, opened the recording app, and slid it between 2 thick journals on attachment. Theory. I angled it carefully toward our table, visible only as a thin black edge between dusty spines. The timer on my watch read 4:26. Perfect. I spent 15 minutes actually searching for Dr. Harrison's paper, finding it tucked in a bound journal from 2019. Then I took the long route back, circling through ancient philosophy to approach our table from behind the reference section. That's when I saw her. Leona leaned over the table, her voice too low to hear from this distance. Her hand rested on Callan's forearm, fingers splayed possessively. Her hair, carefully curled this morning, I'd noticed. When she passed by the dorm, fell forward as she bent closer. The yellow sundress she was wearing was new. I'd never seen it before. Callan hadn't moved away, but his entire body radiated discomfort. His shoulders bunched toward his ears. His free hand gripped his pen so tightly I could see the whitened knuckles from here. He stared fixedly at his textbook while she spoke, nodding mechanically. I ducked behind the American history shelf, my heart hammering against my ribs. Through a gap between books, I watched them. Leona laughed softly at something, tossing her hair back in that practiced motion I'd seen 1,000 times. Still, Callan didn't pull away. For 10 excruciating minutes, I observed them. Leona touched his shoulder, his hand, his arm, brief contacts that could be dismissed as friendly if you hadn't seen this pattern before. If you hadn't lost Jake Harris and Dorian Wells the same way. Finally, she glanced at her watch and straightened. She said something that made Callan nod, his relief visible even from my hiding spot. As she walked away, her fingers trailed across his shoulders. I waited until she exited through the main doors, counting to 60 before emerging from the stacks. My hands didn't shake, my breathing remained even. 2 years of psychology studies had taught me something about controlling physiological responses. I returned to our table, sliding the Harrison journal onto the pile. Found it, I announced, voice steady as I settled back into my chair. Callan jumped slightly, then smiled too widely. Great, I've outlined the methodology section. He tapped his pencil against his notepad, a nervous rhythm. Your sister stopped by. I bookmarked a page in my textbook, not looking up. Oh, that's nice. She wanted to know if we're coming to that family dinner Sunday. I highlighted another passage about covert emotional manipulation. Did you finish the cognitive development section? Callan's pencil stopped tapping. Yeah, nearly done. He watched me for several seconds, then returned to his notes when I didn't react. We studied for another 2 hours. I answered his questions about attachment theory, debated the merits of longitudinal studies versus cross-sectional research, and helped him format his citations. Not once did I mention Leona or the yellow sundress, or the way his voice caught whenever he said my name. In my room that night, I locked the door and plugged in my headphones. The first minute of audio captured only the ambient sounds of the library, pages turning, distant keyboards clicking, someone coughing 3 aisles over. Then Leona's voice, unmistakable even in a whisper, surprised to see me. Callan's response was clipped. What are you doing here? Just being a supportive sister, checking on my favorite future brother-in-law. We've been dating 8 months. Nobody's talking about details. The sound of movement, a chair scraping slightly. You know, I've been watching you play. You're wasted on Division 2 ball. A pause. Tamsin will be back any minute. Leona's voice dropped. Lower, more intimate. You're only with her because she's safe. I could make you feel something real. My fingers curled into fists, nails biting into palms. Callan's voice hardened. Back off. I'm not saying it again. A soft laugh from Leona. That's what Dorian said, too, at first. Then Finn convinced him. Otherwise. Who's Finn? Just a mutual friend. Someone who understands the game better than most. The sound of her standing. Think about it, Calvin Matthews. Some opportunities don't come twice. Silence for several seconds, then the fading click of heels on tile. I replayed the conversation 3 times, my psychology training cataloging the manipulation techniques, isolation, triangulation, implied scarcity, veiled threats. But it was the name that caught me, Finn. I'd heard it before. Opening my laptop, I typed Finn Langston basketball into the search bar. The results loaded quickly. Finn Langston, point guard for Eastern State, career-ending knee injury 3 years ago. During conference playoffs against Riverside Valley, against Callan's team. I clicked through to his social media profile. His cousin was listed as Dorian Wellesley, my ex-boyfriend from freshman year. The same Dorian who suddenly broke things off after meeting Leona at my birthday dinner. Further scrolling revealed photos of Finn with a group of players at a party. In the background, Partially obscured but recognizable was Leona, wearing the signature red dress she saves for special conquests. The connections crystallized with terrible clarity. This wasn't about attraction. It wasn't even about competition with me. It was about revenge. Callan had been on the court when Finn's injury happened, a promising career destroyed in a collision during a crucial play. I leaned back in my chair, a strange calm settling over me. For the first time in our lifelong game, I saw the full board, all the pieces, the strategy extending beyond the next move. Not about love, I whispered to my empty room. About revenge and control. The realization should have terrified me. Instead, I felt something unexpected unfurling in my chest, something that might be strength. Sunday dinner. I arrived at Riverside Bistro 30 minutes early, a decision that wasn't accidental. The hostess, a blonde woman with kind eyes, greeted me with practiced warmth. Reservation for Carter, I say, watching her scan the list. Her fingers stopped. Yes, 4-4 at 7. Your sister called ahead to arrange special seating. She smiled, collecting menus. She requested our intimate corner booth in the back. Very romantic lighting. Of course she did. I returned the smile while my stomach tightened. Actually, I said, keeping my voice light, could we switch to that table instead? I pointed to a table near the front windows, surrounded by other diners, bathed in the golden light of sunset. I love watching people walk by. The hostess hesitated. But your sister specifically. I know she meant well, I interrupted gently. But I'd really prefer the window. It's a celebration. After all, we should be seen. She nodded, rearranging her seating chart. Of course. Right this way. I smoothed my cream-colored dress. Simple, elegant, deliberately understated, and followed her. The table was perfect. Visible from the entrance, surrounded by other diners, impossible to play footsie under without being noticed. I took the seat facing the door and waited, running through my mental checklist. Beth knew to arrive at 7:15 with a convincing story about accidentally spotting us. The teammates would follow at 7:20. My phone sat in my purse, primed to record. Callan arrived first, his tall frame made more imposing by the dark blue button-down that brought out his eyes. He leaned down, pressing a kiss to my cheek that lingered a beat longer than usual. You look beautiful, he said, his voice sincere. Thank you. I squeezed his hand as he sat beside me, rather than across. Another calculated move. I still think we could have celebrated alone, he murmured, close enough that I caught the mint on his breath. Family is important to me, I replied, the practiced line floating out effortlessly. His eyes flickered. Tamsin, about your sister. The restaurant door swung open, and conversation around us stuttered to a momentary halt. Leona stood framed in the entrance, wearing a dress the color of fresh blood. It hugged every curve, the neckline plunging dangerously low, the hem stopping several inches above her knees, her dark hair cascading over bare shoulders. The hostess led her toward us. I noted Callan's quick glance. Instinctive, male, before his eyes locked firmly back on my face. Points for effort. Sorry I'm late, Leona announced, though she was precisely on time. She bent to hug me, her expensive perfume invading my space. Traffic was a nightmare. She took the seat across from us, directly facing Callan. Cal, congratulations again on the scholarship. Thanks, Callan said, his posture stiff beside me. It's not final yet, but it will be, I added, letting my pride in him show genuinely. Coach Martinez practically guaranteed it. The server appeared and we ordered drinks. I chose water with lemon, needing clarity. Leona ordered a cosmopolitan, its color a perfect match for her dress. Not a coincidence. Conversation flowed with practiced ease. Leona asked all the right questions about Callan's basketball season, his scholarship prospects, our summer plans. Anyone watching would see a supportive sister interested in her siblings' relationship. I dropped my napkin deliberately, bending to retrieve it. Under the table, Leona's foot rested between Callan's legs, her red heel dangling precariously from manicured toes. His knees were pressed tightly together, body angled away from her. I straightened, napkin recovered, expression unchanged. "Excuse me," I said, standing. "Restroom break." In the privacy of the hallway, I pulled out my phone and texted Beth. Now, when I returned, the dynamics had shifted. Leona leaned forward, one hand touching Callan's wrist as she laughed at something. He withdrew his arm as I approached. "Tamsin," a familiar voice called from the entrance. Beth waved enthusiastically, as if spotting us. Was a delightful surprise. Behind her stood 3 of Callan's teammates, all grinning. "Beth." I responded with manufactured surprise. "What are you guys doing here?" Leona's smile froze, her eyes narrowing almost imperceptibly. "Post-practice hunger," said Marcus, the team captain, already pulling chairs from a nearby empty table. "Mind if we join? We're celebrating Cal's scholarship news too." "The more the merrier," I said before Leona could object. Relief washed over Callan's face as the table expanded from intimate to crowded. Leona shifted her chair back slightly, creating distance from the newcomers. The red heel that had been teasing toward Callan now tucked firmly beneath her chair. Once everyone settled with drinks, I raised my water glass. "I'd like to propose a toast," I announced, meeting each person's eyes before landing on my sister's. "To honesty and loyalty, the foundation of every meaningful relationship." Beth smiled knowingly. The teammates echoed the sentiment. And I continued, my voice steady as I maintained eye contact with Leona, to my research project on interpersonal manipulation that Professor Winters approved yesterday. I'll be exploring how people create false narratives to control others. Leona's cosmopolitan wobbled in her hand, liquid sloshing dangerously close to the rim. For a split second, her mask slipped, revealing something sharp and cold beneath. "Fascinating topic," she managed, setting her glass down carefully, though perhaps not appropriate dinner conversation. "On the contrary," I replied, my smile unwavering. "I think it's perfect for tonight." 2 days later, I slid into a corner booth at the Grind, 15 minutes early for my meeting with Rebecca. The coffee shop buzzed with afternoon activity, perfect for our conversation to blend into background noise. My hands were steady as I arranged the folder of evidence on the table, a calculated display of organization. Rebecca Walsh, Campus T's most ambitious student journalist, arrived precisely on time. Her curly red hair bounced as she slid into the seat across from me, laptop already in hand. "I'm surprised. You reached out," she said, studying me with sharp green eyes. "You've never struck me as the type to court publicity." I pushed the folder toward her slightly, not enough to offer it, just enough to acknowledge its presence. "I'm not interested in publicity. I'm interested in truth." She glanced at the folder. "About your sister and your boyfriend? That's already trending. Old news. By tomorrow." "It's not about a trending topic," I replied, taking a deliberate sip of my coffee. "It's about a pattern. One that affects more people than just me." Rebecca's eyebrow arched, her journalistic instinct clearly piqued. She leaned forward. "What kind of pattern?" I opened the folder, revealing carefully organized photos, screenshots, and handwritten notes. Not everything I had, just enough. "Leona has a history. These are incidents spanning 3 years, 5 relationships, mine and others." Rebecca flipped through the materials, her professional detachment slipping as she recognized names, places, timestamps. "This is methodical. Psychology majors tend to notice behavioral patterns," I said, my voice neutral, despite the anger simmering beneath my skin. "Look at the timestamps on the coffee shop meetings, the text messages to mutual friends, the coincidental appearances." She studied a particular photo longer than the others. Leona with a basketball player from State University, dated 8 months before she ever met Callan. The similarity in their posture, her hand placement, was unmistakable. "So, what do you want me to do with this?" she asked finally. I closed the folder, sliding it back toward me. "Nothing yet. Just watch the rooftop party on Saturday. Greenfield Apartments, sunset. That's all. Rebecca tapped her pen against her notebook. This isn't just gossip, is it? Would I be here if it was? I held her gaze steadily. She pocketed her pen. I'll be there. But I can't promise coverage. I'm not asking for promises, I said, standing to leave. Just witness. The knock on my dorm room door came Thursday evening, soft but insistent. I knew who it was before I opened it. Leona stood in the hallway, looking uncharacteristically disheveled. Her eyes were rimmed. Red, mascara slightly smudged, the perfect picture of distress, whether genuine or manufactured. Can I come in? She asked, voice small. I stepped aside wordlessly, my laptop already open on my desk. With one casual movement, I tapped the recording app icon as she entered. I've been thinking about everything, Leona began, perching on the edge of my bed. About us. About how things have been. I sat at my desk chair, maintaining distance. Have you? I've been going through something, Tamsin. Her voice caught, tears welling. Since Dad started traveling so much. Since Mom, well, you know how she is. The script was familiar, the emotional appeal, the shared family reference, the subtle redirect of blame. I'd heard variations of this since we were children. What exactly are you going through? I asked, my voice careful, curious rather than accusatory. Leona looked up, seemingly surprised by the question. People rarely asked her to elaborate on her emotional claims. I need attention sometimes. In ways that aren't healthy. A partial truth. The most dangerous kind. I was thinking, she continued. Maybe we could do some counseling. Just the two of us to start. To work through our issues. My recording app blinked silently as I considered her. If I refused, I was unreasonable. If I agreed, she would control the narrative with a therapist. I'll think about it, I said, neither committing nor refusing. Leona reached for my hand. I let her take it, feeling nothing as her fingers curled around mine. I just want my sister back. Saturday evening bathed the rooftop in golden light. String lights crisscrossed overhead, ready to illuminate the gathering once the sun set. Music pulsed through portable speakers, not yet loud. Enough to drown conversation. I positioned myself near the refreshment table, a strategic location. Visible from most angles. Callan joined me, handing me a cup of punch that I wouldn't drink. You look beautiful, he said, and I heard the undercurrent of tension in his voice. She's here, I murmured, angling my head slightly. 3 o'clock. Leona appeared by the rooftop entrance, wearing a pale blue sundress that caught the fading sunlight. Several heads turned as she wove through the crowd. Callan's shoulders tensed beside me. Let's talk about our plans for the psychology conference, I said, loud enough to be heard clearly. Launching into our practice conversation. Callan followed my lead, discussing potential research. Presentations. We looked engaged, focused on each other, our future, exactly as planned. I tracked Leona's approach in my peripheral vision. She wore determination like another accessory. Her smile fixed as she navigated toward us. Callan, she said, her hand immediately finding his arm. Can we talk privately, just for a minute? I felt his arm stiffen under her touch. Around us, conversations dimmed as attention shifted our way. Anything you need to say can be said here, Callan responded, voice firm. I noticed Rebecca. Positioned by the DJ table, her phone casually held at recording height. 2 other campus contributors stood at different angles. Leona's expression flickered with frustration before settling into something softer, more vulnerable. Please, it's important. Before Callan could respond, Leona stepped forward and kissed him. Her movement was fluid, practiced, perfectly timed, as several phones aimed our way, capturing the moment. Callan pushed her away immediately. Have you lost your mind? He demanded, voice cutting through the sudden silence on the rooftop. Phones buzzed all around us as notifications pinged, campus teas. Live update feature working exactly as intended. Rebecca captured everything, her expression professional despite the drama unfolding. I stepped forward, my voice steady and clear. I think we're done here. Leona's face transitioned from feigned passion to genuine shock as she registered the phones, the witnesses, the trap she'd walked into. For once, she had no script to follow. You planned this, she whispered, comprehension dawning. I met her eyes directly. No, Leona. You did. I just made sure people were watching this time. 3 days later, I straightened my spine as I walked into the dean's office, manila folder tucked under my arm for the final notice. The weight of evidence inside felt substantial. Weeks of documentation, screenshots, recordings, and witness statements. Not a revenge portfolio, but a pattern of behavior finally brought to light. Miss Carter, Dean Reeves gestured to the chair across from her desk. I've reviewed your submission thoroughly. Her office smelled of coffee and old books. Behind her, framed degrees hung beside black and white photos of the campus from decades ago. I wondered how many family dramas these walls had witnessed. Leona has been suspended pending further review, she said, folding her hands. Her leadership positions with the Student Union and Honor Society have been revoked. I nodded, something loosening in my chest. Not satisfaction, exactly, more like verification, reality finally aligning with truth. The Student Council issued this statement this morning. She slid a paper across her desk. I scanned the carefully worded paragraph about standards of conduct and community trust, diplomatic language masking the simple fact my sister systematically targeted my boyfriend as part of a lifelong pattern. What about your studies? Dean Reeves asked, her voice softening. I'm staying. The words came without hesitation. I'm specializing in family dynamics. Professor Winters has agreed to supervise my research. 2 weeks later, I sat at my desk writing the hardest letter of my life. Mom, I choose peace over pretense. For 22 years, I've smiled for family photos while ignoring what happened when cameras lowered. I can't do that anymore. I'm not cutting contact. I'm establishing boundaries. Your daughter, Tamsin, *. Dad called that night, the first real conversation we'd had in years. His voice cracked when he said I should have seen it. I'm sorry, Tamsin. Weeks later, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I joined 8 others in a campus meeting room. Siblings of manipulative family members met between the chess club and debate team. We spoke truths there that would shatter family dinner tables. Callan and I walked the empty track field one evening, frost crunching beneath our shoes. I should have told you sooner, he said, breath clouding in the cold air, when she first showed up at practice. Would I have believed you? I asked, or would I have heard Mom's voice saying I was overreacting? He took my hand, his palm warm against mine. How do we trust after this? Carefully, I answered, with our eyes open. The letter arrived from New Mexico 3 months later, Leona's flowing handwriting on the envelope. *UN. Maybe that's all I ever feared. I placed it unopened on my desk, next to my mother's. Reluctant text acknowledging, for the first time, that perhaps she'd enabled a pattern. Graduation arrived like the final page of a chapter. My psychology honors medal felt substantial. Against my chest as I scanned the audience, the empty chair where Leona might have sat. My parents, sitting slightly apart. Callan, who deferred his graduate school acceptance nearby, whistling as I crossed the stage. Later, I stood outside the psychology building, where freshmen hurried past discussing that Hartwell sisters drama from last year. One girl said, I can't believe she actually documented everything, so badass. I smiled as they passed, no longer defined by that story. That night, I placed Leona's unopened letter in a wooden box beside my psychology honors medal. I ran my fingers over both before closing the lid with gentle firmness. Some sisters share clothes. Others share lessons. I've learned mine.